May 5th, 2023, GojiCenter teamed up with artists and researchers to analyze the long-lost hybrid, the faulty Ultimasaurus, and create a new and improved Gestalt monster truly capable of the carnage the Chaos Effect monster failed to inflict, the Ultima Imperatrix. A year later, the crew did the same, to the scourge of Jurassic World to even greater reception. And then for some reason, the internet collectively decided to kill it. The first attempt was struck by YouTuber Goji Guy with his horrific hellbeast Hank. After fending off that challenge, the 2.0 found itself confronted by a slew of foes that came out of the woodwork. Most were sensible beasts we could see showing up in the Jurassic franchise and apt combatants. Others, however, found themselves in the Hall of Shame. But sharp-eyed viewers no doubt noticed something missing. An empty spot in this exhibit reserved to the absolute worst of them all. But whose ass cheeks will finally make contact with the dreaded throne in the Hall of Shame? Today on GojiCenter, we will showcase a well-known challenger to the 2.0, one who was portrayed as an impossible beast, part man, part kaiju, the uncanny primate king straight out of Dangerville, the Primatus Rex. Or is that Primatus Rex? Jeez, I don't know. So, to stand up to the threat of the king of primates, the pseudo-named Indom 2.0 will have to be modified into nothing. Yeah, you already know this song and dance already. We could have tweaked and revised our favorite attack animal to stand up to a shrunken actual kaiju, but you'll find that this won't be necessary. And while we will be dragging Primatus from its fantasy world into our own grounded universe for some harsh evaluations, we'll play nice and are not going to take away any of its questionable abilities. It'll still be the same psychic, force field-making, physics-busting murder monkey it always was. Soon you'll realize that challenging the 2.0 will introduce you to a very unforgiving entity, reality. Primatus Rex might be a horrifying monster of the mind, but nature is far more ruthless than any thought ever conceived by anyone. So, what does the primate bring to the table? Some decently good assets. A large, robust jaw with fangs for piercing and numerous other sharp teeth for ripping and crunching like Tyrannosaurus. Multi-ton arms to both act as bludgeons, grasp, and slash. A long tail tipped in spikes like a Stegosaurus Thagomizer that can bash and stab, and with a towering upright stance of 25 feet tall, Primatus certainly can be big enough to make it plenty lethal. If the 2.0 left itself wide open to a grapple and crush against such a creature, it could be curtains for the hybrid. However, and get comfortable everyone, because class is in session. There's a reason nothing like this ever existed in nature, and folks at Dangerville might have left a few weaknesses in the design that would make tangling with the 2.0 a Herculean effort. For every benefit of a design feature, there could be certain drawbacks. And if there was anything we hope to have shown you on this channel, it's that humanity can rarely outsmart nature when contradicting it. Weakness number 1, skin. Have you noticed that outside of humans, primates have almost never become apex predators? There is exactly one species of purely carnivorous, bloodthirsty primate that butchers prey and stalks in the dark forests of South Asia. This thing. Called a tarsier, these hopping night stalkers are the scourge of grasshoppers, lizards, and frogs they dispatch by ripping the heads off. So, why haven't larger primates really accomplished all that much hunting on a bigger scale than a mob of chimps jumping a monkey a quarter their size? After all, it took humans multiple millions of years and the invention of spears to start seriously having an occupation more dignified than big cat food. Part of the reason is the skin. Primates have some of the best sense of touch of any animal, very useful for navigating trees and high dexterity to use tools, but not really good at resisting injuries from struggling prey or fighting rivals. Let's take a look at demented Monkeyzilla real quick, and it seems as if we have a problem. This fur and skin composition comes straight from primates. Skin is made up of multiple components and layers. In primates, the dermis and epidermis are more rigid, and there's less fibers called collagen and elastin connecting the tissue. This means primate hide is much less flexible and can't bend around claws and teeth as well as other mammals. Own a pet cat or dog? You'll probably notice you can pretty easily pull up their skin without hurting them. This same elasticity allows them to warp around and withstand both impacts and stabbing teeth or claws better. The same kind of squabbles between two lions leaving each other with scratches on their face might skin a primate alive. For particularly beefy primates like mountain gorillas, thicker skin, layers of fat tight against the muscle, and more covering fur help to protect the limbs and body from injuries, something the lean and mean Primatus seemingly lacks. Now, this isn't to say cutting up an ape is like knifing through butter. Hide is still not something easily pierced, just that there's going to be way less resistance on the skin. And certain types of injuries like shredding and gashes that do slice the skin are going to leave some nasty cuts. This was a reason that while the Indominus 2.0 had some primate genes in its roster, these were far less pronounced and mostly fixed on the internal musculature and skeleton. That armored hide from the African dwarf crocodile was picked for optimal protection without costing much flexibility, specifically to cover this problem. But the ways the Primate King differs from other primates also came back to bite it in another way. Weakness number 2, stance. Yeah, many of you probably saw this one coming from a mile away. There's a pretty good reason no biped ever looked at all much like Primatus rex. What works for a kaiju may not work for a normal animal. Mixing and matching the traits of a dinosaur and a primate in this fashion took away from the best of both worlds. Let's quickly recap how both of these move around. Bipedal primates like gibbons and humans are able to walk upright, giving them the ability to quickly turn around and change direction because there is no tail in the way. The hips are wide and short, keeping the upper body directly above the center of gravity at the pelvis and stomach. Walking on the whole foot is called a plantigrade stance, giving us, and gibbons, better stability because the heel is touching the ground to act as a backstop and pivot. This is why even apes like chimps and gorillas, who usually knuckle walk on all fours, will be stable while running and fight in bipedal stance. Apes can do this much better than tailed monkeys that have their center of gravity shifted around. Seems like Primatus is already racking up some issues. But what else does the Monkey King resemble? Theropods. Let's take a quick minute to study those. Theropods were obligate bipeds that had everything virtually the other way around. The hip was very narrow but long. This gave these animals enough space for the light muscles to attach at an angle that kept the body parallel to the ground, with muscles that attach the legs and tail helping them maintain balance and increase stamina. Walking in a digitigrade stance with the heels raised off the ground. You know when you see birds and it seems like they have backwards pointing knees? Same thing. They inherited it from their ancestors, and this reverse knee orientation is actually the heel you're looking at. That long tail is critical for keeping balance when walking around at a huge size, but only when standing parallel with the ground. Going upright for a long time and walking around like this could result in toppling over. Demonic Barney is seemingly trying to have both stances, the parallel stance of a theropod and upright stance of apes. This can lead to compromised mobility and stability when trying to fight. The body being that far up with long digitigrade legs bent like this means building speed and keeping your stamina while doing so is going to be way harder than it would be for a theropod. So this now means that getting hit by a similarly sized opponent in a charge would wind up toppling Primatus rex over much easier than the other way around. This is one of those times we're trying to be the jack of all trades and failing miserably. But hold on a sec. There are animals in real life that resemble this. What about those? Well, yes, there are, like kangaroos and sloths. They can get away with this, though, because they have different arrangements for their hip and tail to pull this off. Spinosaurus and Therizinosaurus pulled this off as well to some degree because they had very wide stances with four-toed feet and shorter legs to keep their center of gravity lower. Primatus is functional, but most definitely not optimal. When it comes to changing direction quicker, sprinting long distances, or even keeping its footing when clashing against similarly sized animals, it will be a lot harder than it seems. And this without mentioning how top-heavy this thing is. Huge arms and a massive skull adding weight above the balance point near the lean gut will bring some issues. A quick fix for this would have been planting its hands or knuckles on the ground like Peter Jackson's King Kong, but it doesn't seem to be the default posture. Tackling the 2.0 might wind up bowling over Primatus rex in a tackle, dragging it down and using that towering height against it. In the video featuring Primatus rex and him bullying the original Indominus rex, there seems to be no mention of one special weapon the 2.0 possesses. No, this isn't the sharpened metal pole the internet seems to bring up every time, which would now, by the way, prove troublesome to an unstable front-heavy Primatus. We are talking about venom. If there is any animal amongst the 2.0's carefully selected contributors that has been consistently underestimated time and again, it's the MVP, short-tailed shrew. This animal caught a lot of people off guard when this seemingly wannabe rodent had a surprising skill for carnage. We're lucky they're so small. It and fellow contributor the dwarf crocodile were essential in rescuing the 2.0 from what could have been fatal blood poisoning when it squared up against Hank. Today, the 2.0's toxins are here to teach Dangerville a lesson. Weakness number 3, venom. Usually, for large animals, venom is not necessarily something you have to worry about. Venom, after all, works by injecting the toxins into the bloodstream. As they say, the dose makes the poison. The more venom there is in relation to the volume of blood in the animal, the greater the chance the venom can do its job. This is why the amount of venom that could kill a mouse within moments might make a horse dizzy and barely even register to an elephant. The murder monkey showcased in Dangerville's video that bullies the Indom also, in that it's in a different size class, but nowhere big enough to snuff off the effects of the 2.0's venom, and the amount applied. Let's take a look at what would happen when the 2.0 manages to take a bite off the now unstable abomination. But hold up, we really need to address this, especially since every ability in the hybrid should be backed up by some genetic contributor. In Dangerville's video, it was mentioned that this thing has a bolstered immune system, but no mention of what exactly contributed to it. Even Hank had most of its abilities backed up by animals. But let's pretend and give Primatus a free pass that it does somehow have this said improved immune system. Well, it might go a bit better if it was fighting a venomous snake, but it's fighting the 2.0 with the venom application method of the shrew, which is very different. Unlike snakes, who are very careful with the limited stamina they have for bursts of action, shrews are about as hyperactive and voracious as an animal can get, continuously biting and thrashing, and the venomous saliva makes this all worse. Continuous doses of venom to the bloodstream isn't something the body will take lightly. Say this immune system does manage to fend off the first dose, it might start having issues with the second, third, fourth, and so on. The body takes time fighting off these foreign agents and can become overwhelmed. Not to mention that this neurotoxin will cause paralysis at a parabolic rate as each bite is inflicted, affecting the nerve cells and, hold on. Alright, yeah, we need to talk about this. Primatus comes wobbling into the battlefield with enlarged brain tissue that allegedly gives it psychic powers. It might be protected from outside attacks by Primatus's foresight to cover its blind spots and a force field, which in the realm of reality wouldn't exist, but here goes yet another free pass. Primatus can keep its force field ability, cause one good bite and it's out of commission. How about a venomous tax from the inside? Alright fellas, pop quiz. Where do you think a neurotoxin that targets nerves is going to affect the most? I'll give you a couple seconds. Did you pick answer A? Yes? Congratulations! Dangerville selected option F. Now, admittedly, a small dose of venom would not affect a theropod or normal primate of similar size to the same degree. But this venom still has horrid effects on the muscles and nerves for an opponent, like this. In this case, however, this superfluous amount of brain tissue ended up giving Primatus a bigger weakness to this. And because neurons still have to act like neurons to transmit information between the cells regardless of what you are, otherwise you couldn't even move, this means the more bites Primatus incurs, the more its mind and body are going to stop working. And, well, as we already covered, the evil monkey is shrink-wrapped in tightly fixed skin around the muscles with very little padding underneath, making it bleed quicker and giving more opportunities for this venom to leak with every bite. The fur could deflect some of it, but anything on the bare parts like arms, chest, neck, face, and that uncanny tail would prove catastrophic. And if that happens, well, its fate might even get more grisly if the Primate King loses the fight. Shrews and their fellow venomous cousins like moles will sometimes store their prey alive to eat them fresh later once they go catatonic. For the kids watching, this is the act of storing the bodies of prey, still alive but paralyzed, to then eat fresh later. A hallmark attribute of the 2.0 is that it does resemble the shrew's hunting methodology. There is something else. A naturalist study found that short-tailed shrews cache away over 85% of their prey. In many cases, the 2.0 would wind up killing prey on the spot, but if its prey locks up and goes catatonic, that being paralyzed but still alive, those instincts might kick in, and 2.0 could drag and store the monkey somewhere to eat for lunch later. Now, to the point made in Dangerville's video. This animal is coming from an alternate universe, host to different rule sets which cancel out lots of rules of physics, and with a bit of wiggle room when it comes to supernatural abilities like telepathy and force fields. An Indominus in this fictitious realm could fall to Primatus quite easily, with tool use or with its bare hands due to a noticeable physical advantage. However, while being a fearsome opponent, fighting the 2.0 means dealing with the bitter truth of reality. And here in the realm of realism, Primatus gets an F and is worthy to stand side by side with those in the Hall of Shame. So, here's an offer we are going to throw at Dangerville, who just randomly threw their hat inside the wrong ring. The seat is empty and is eagerly waiting for those hairy ass cheeks to make contact. If you refuse, then we got something prepared. Dangerville themselves challenged us to upgrade our combatants, so fine. You want to play this game, then we'll be happy to oblige. GojiCenter will now play by the rule sets of Terracosm, and Primatus is now given a choice: embrace shame or face death.